Hello, and welcome back to this second AutoCAD tutorial. Today we'll be picking up where we left off with our title block, and we'll be drawing this simple block. As you can see, I have the drawing in mind, but you're going to have to draw it from scratch as you follow along. We're going to be using a few more of these simple commands, and we'll also be adding dimensioning. First of all, what we'd like to do is create a reference rectangle that'll allow us to center our drawing on our paper. To do this, we need to know the overall width and the overall height. Our overall width will be the length of our object plus a space, in this case 30 millimeters, plus the width of our object. And the overall height will be the height of our object plus the space, which is again 30 millimeters, plus the width on the top view, which will be the same as the width on the side view, 60 millimeters. In this case, the reference rectangle that we'd like to draw is 210 millimeters wide by 144 millimeters high. Let's go ahead and select the rectangle tool. Click to start somewhere in your drawing, and notice now you can create a rectangle without having to draw the 4 individual lines. In this case, the default is to specify this other point, or if you would type in the number, it would calculate the area required based on that number. We'd like to input the width and height of our rectangle. If you type in D, the shortcut for dimensions, and press enter, you can now type in 210 as our width, press enter, and 144 as our height. Now we'd like to center this rectangle on our drawing. Draw a diagonal line through your drawing space. Right-click to accept. Now we'd like to move M, or you can select the Move key on your Modify palette. Select the rectangle, right-click to accept. If you hold Shift and right-click, you get a menu with additional options. Pick mid between 2 points. This will allow your selection point to be based on the midpoint between 2 points. Pick the top left corner and the bottom right corner, and notice you are now moving this rectangle in the middle of those 2 points. Find the midpoint of the line, which is this little triangle, and click to move it there. You can delete this reference line at this time. Let's move this rectangle to the construction layer. As you can see, I have some additional construction lines here, which we'll delete for the time being. Make sure you're on the construction line by double-clicking on it. And now we can start to draw our object. To draw our object, we're going to switch actually to the object layer. And we're going to start by drawing the top view. We'll delete this rectangle as it's in the way. So the top view will be started in this top corner, and it's going to be 60 millimeters wide by 120 millimeters long. Pick the rectangle tool, click the top corner, select D for dimensions, 120 wide by 60 millimeters high. Notice you can select the side that you want this rectangle to be drawn on. Let's select down and to the right. Now we're going to start drawing these circles and these additional straight lines. We're only going to draw them on one side, and then we'll use a mirror command to mirror them over so we do not have to draw them again. So let's start with this straight line. As you can see, it lines up here at 30 millimeters from the edge. Select the line command, hover over the corner, and track over, type in 30. Now we can drag this down vertically until we get that snap point and click for your second point. Right-click to exit out of the command. Let's draw one of these circles. The circle has a diameter of 11 millimeters, which would be a radius of 5.5. Pick the circle command from the Draw template palette. We also need to know where to place it. It's placed 15 millimeters down and 15 millimeters over. We can use our tracking command to track one distance, type in the 15, and now the default will be to specify the radius. Type in 5.5 for the radius. We can now use the move command, type M for move, or select it on the modify palette. Select the circle and pick a reference point to copy from. You don't necessarily have to pick the center or a point on the circle. You can pick anywhere in the drawing, just as long as you track accordingly. Let's pull it down 15 millimeters. Rather than drawing this one again at the bottom, let's mirror it. This will ensure that we have exactly the same size and it's positioned proportionally correct. Type in mirror or select the mirror command from the modify palette. Select the circle and right-click to accept. Find the midpoint on this width, select it, and pull over horizontally either to the right or the left. Your new circle will appear there, and if you click, it'll ask you whether you want to erase the source object. The default is no. You can either select this no, press enter, or right-click to accept. Now let's add some center marks to these circles. Type in the command center mark. Select the circle, and your center mark is added. Select the other circle and do it as well. Now we can mirror all two circles, this additional line, and the center marks. Select the mirror command and select these objects. Right-click to accept, pick the midpoint, and pull down or up vertically. Click to accept. As you can see, it's a lot quicker just to mirror entities that you have already drawn rather than starting from scratch. Let's go ahead and add this last circle. It's 40 millimeters in diameter or 20 millimeters in radius. Pick the circle command. As you can see, it's centered in the width and the height. We can use multiple tracking points. Hover over this triangle to pick this midpoint and pull up. Now move over to this side. Notice you still have a green plus sign there. This means that you can pick another tracking point and pull over until those two intersect. This is the exact midpoint of the width and the height. Now we can type in 20 for the radius, and let's add a center mark. Select the circle, and you have the center mark added. Right-click to escape out of the command. Let's go ahead and draw the right side view. We'll start with a rectangle that is 60 millimeters wide by 54 millimeters high. Select the rectangle command or type in rectangle. Pick the bottom right corner. And now we type in D for dimension, 60 for the width, and 54 for the height. Once again, we choose the direction we want the rectangle to go in and click to accept. Now we have to add in this horizontal line as well as the dotted lines, the hidden lines, which indicate that these circles are actually recessed into the block. The straight line is an easy one. We can see here that it's 27 millimeters from the bottom. As we can see, the top is 27 millimeters as well. So we can draw this line either by hovering over and tracking up 27, or we can simply select the midpoint. Pull over and select the other side for your second point. Now, to create these hidden lines that reflect the recessed holes, we're going to add a couple construction lines to help us reference them. Double-click on the construction layer to make it current, and type in XL for construction line. This will allow us to create an infinite line in any direction. Pull one horizontally off the bottom right-hand corner of the top view, and another off the top left-hand corner of the right side view. And finally, one at that intersection point at a 45-degree angle. Your first click indicates the start point. Your second click indicates the direction in which it's going to go. Right-click exits out of the command. Now we can use our regular line command to create reference lines from the bottom of the circle across to this 45-degree angle, and then pull it down. Go ahead and do the same at the top. Right-click to repeat the last command, pick the top of the circle, bring it across to the 45-degree angle line, and then down. Now we'd like to create this hidden line. To do this, go ahead and make a new layer. I already have one here, but you can make a new one and call it hidden. We also want this one to show up as a dotted line. If you scroll over to the side, you'll see these lines, and if you left click on it, you can change what type of line it is. You'll likely only have continuous line as an option. If you click Manage at the bottom and Load, you'll be able to add different line attributes. Scroll down until you find the hidden. Select it, Add, and press OK. Now, when you select that line, you'll have that additional option. Switch it over to a hidden line. To draw this hidden line, we need to know how deep into the object it goes. As it's not dimensioned on here, we'll have to use a command to figure out that number. Typing DI will give you the distance command. Select your first point, and you can hover over, and you'll see that the depth is 30 millimeters. We can escape out of that command, and we'll go and draw this hidden line. Rather than using the line command, we're going to use the polyline command. This is very similar to the line command, except the end result is one continuous line grouped together. Select it, or you can type in P-line. Let's start at the top of the drawing here, and we'll drag down, type in 30, pull it across, and then back up. Right-click to exit out. If you didn't already switch over to your hidden line, do so now. And you can select this line, which you'll now notice is one complete entity, and move it over to the hidden line layer. As you can see, the scale of this line is quite small. If you select it, and in the properties, under line type scale, change this to 10, and it'll make your dashed lines larger. As we are done with this circle, we can go ahead and delete these construction lines as we do not need them any longer. Let's use the same process, switching back to the construction line layer, to draw reference lines for one of these smaller circles. Start at the bottom, pull it across to the 45-degree angle, and then straight down. right-click to exit out, right-click to repeat the command, and do the same for the top. We only need to do this for one, as we'll be able to use the mirror command to mirror it over for our second one. I'll go ahead and do this distance to let you know how deep to make this second hole. As you can see, it's 12 millimeters deep. Let's go back to our hidden line layer, pick the polyline or type in P-line. We'll start at this lower line at the intersection. We'll go down 12 millimeters, across to the other reference line, and back up. As you can see, it's reverted back to those original properties. I'll show you another command that'll easily allow you to match properties. Type in MA and press enter. Now you select the source object and then the line that you want to match. Right-click to escape out of it. Let's use the mirror command to mirror this hidden line to create the second hole. Now you've finished the right side view. Let's start on the front view. For this, we're creating this upside down T-shaped with the hidden lines indicating the holes. We're going to use the polyline tool again. Click or type in P-line, and let's start from the bottom left corner. Click for your first point, and we'd like to go across 120 millimeters. Get your tracking line across and type in 120. At this point, we can use our tracking to reference off of our side view to get our height correct. And we can use our tracking off of our top view to get the point of this lower level correct. As you can see, we went the full height, but we were only supposed to go half the height. If you type in Command Z, it'll undo one step. You can continuously do this and undo steps of your polyline back to where you want to go. Let's hover to this midpoint and pull it across and click. Now we can reference off the top view, pulling it down, reference again off the top right side view to get the full height, reference from the top to get the width of the top platform, again off of the side to step down again, and then for the final width here. Rather than clicking to end, if you type in C, it'll close this as one complete item. C will have the line revert back to the original start point. As you can see, I've been drawing on the hidden layer. Switch over to the object layer, select your object if you haven't switched over, and put it on the object layer. Now we'd like to add these hidden lines for the holes on the front view. Rather than redraw them, as these are circles, we know that the width of them will be the same regardless of which side you're looking from. So we can copy them from the right side view. Select the copy command, select the hidden line, right-click to accept. We'll select this midpoint as a reference, and we can reference off the top here, tracking it down to the correct position. Right-click to exit out of the command. Right-click to repeat the command, and we can select one of these smaller ones. At this point, we'd like to use the Shift, right-click, mid between 2 points to pick the center of this group of lines. And we can track again from the top down to get it to the correct point. At this point, you could either copy over or mirror to get your other side. Now your drawing is complete. You can go ahead and delete these additional construction lines, or alternatively, you can simply turn the layer off. The lines are still there, but they won't be referenced to until you turn them back on. Now, let's get into dimensioning. Before doing any dimensions, we want to set up our dimension style. Go into Dimensions, Dimension Style, or you can type in Dim Style. Here, we can create as many different dimension styles as we want. As you can see, I've created a metric one. I'm going to remove this one. As you can see, it's not letting me because I have dimensions on that one. So we'll just make a new one. We'll make it a copy of Standard, and we'll call it Metric. You can call yours Metric. I'll have to call mine Metric 1, as I already have a metric layer for dimensions. Click Continue, and now you can see we can edit these attributes to be specifically what we want. For the lines, we want our baseline spacing to be 2 millimeters. We want the extension beyond the dimension lines to be 2 millimeters as well, and the offset from the original to be 2 millimeters. Moving over to symbols and arrows, we'd like to switch these to open arrows. Do the same for the leader line. The arrow size should be 3 millimeters, and the break size should be 2 millimeters. Under text, we want our text height to be 3 millimeters, and we'll change the offset from the dimension line to 0. For fit, we'll just give you an idea here of what happens. Here you can tell what you want to happen to the number if it's too large to fit in between the lines. You can have the arrows go to the outside, or the text to go to the outside, or you can have it select for you. We'll leave it as that. Over here you could change the scale. We'd want to make sure to keep that at 1 for now. Primary units we want to keep as decimal, but we're going to change the precision to 2 decimal points. We're going to change the round off to 2 decimal points as well. Under alternative units is where you could add in inches, for example. By selecting Display Alternative Units, it'll put in these units at a multiple of 25.4, which would convert it into inches. We'll uncheck that for now. We don't need to deal with any of the tolerances at this time. Go ahead and click OK. And now you have a dimension style that is tailored for this specific drawing. Right-click on it, set it as current, and hit Close. Now we can go ahead and dimension our object. We want to make sure that we always have our dimensions 10 millimeters off the object or off of a previous dimension line if we're stacking them. So go ahead and dimension your drawing. Under the Dimension palette, you have this Dimension command. If you hold on it, it'll give you options of other commands. When you're dimensioning a diagonal line, you'd have to pick the aligned dimension, as the dimension linear only allows you to dimension lines that are horizontal and vertical. You can also see that there are some other options. We'll be using the diameter dimension at a later time, but for now, let's keep the linear dimension. Pick a start point and an end point, and you'll see you have the dimension line. If you hover over this original point and drag down, you can type in to have it be exactly 10 millimeters off the object. Currently we're drawing on the object layer, so go ahead and double click on the dimension layer to make that current. And you can select any dimensions you've already drawn and switch those over to the dimension layer. When dimensioning, you want to make sure that you are not dimensioning any same number twice. So keep that in mind. Let's go ahead and add the width. As you can see, we could either hover over and drag down, type in 10, or if you have dimensions in line, you can just simply click on a point on that dimension and it'll pick that in line. Let's go ahead and put on a few more dimensions. We'll do the height of the lower layer, and we'll do the height of the higher layer. So as not to have additional conflicting lines, we'd like the dimension line to start from this outer point, and we can select this point to have it line up perfectly. Let's dimension the top, hovering over and typing in 10. Once you have that baseline created, you can use it to reference your other dimensions onto. We'll also reference the center of these circles. Let's add the overall height on the right side of the right view. As you can see, we can add in the dimensions to give this drawing detail. We still need to dimension the diameter of these holes, so hover over this icon for the linear dimension, click and hold, and select the diameter. Select the circle you want to dimension, and do the same for the large circle. Right-click to exit out of the command. At this point, your drawing is fully dimensioned, and we're ready to move on to the next stage. Before we do that, let's go ahead and save it.